Welcome back to another day of the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We are here to break down the DraftKings Slate Night 6 gamer for Friday, February 9th. Let's try to end the week on a high note, shall we? Do us a favor and like this video if we help you out in any way. And also, please subscribe to our channel, the DFS Build, so you can get alerted to future episodes. And by the way, we're also on Spotify if you don't want to watch a video for the 20 to 30 minutes that the show usually runs. The show is also sponsored by DFS Hero, which has a versatile lineup optimizer and plenty of features that can help you score a takedown. Right now, you can get 15% off when you use our link, which is located in the video description below. Speaking of takedowns, I was so fucking close last night. I made a late swap, or I didn't make a late swap. The Dame Lillard news came through. I figured the Bucks would be chalk. I was staring at freaking Jay Crowder, knowing he was starting and knowing Dame wasn't in there and Middleton was out. And I thought he would be chalky, and I was already using Kevin Durant. So I thought he'd be chalky, so I kept Keontae George, and that prevented me from first place. So those kinds of decisions are just part of what we go over in general to hopefully prepare you for it and not muck it up like I did. All right, so Taylor, how'd you do last night? Oh, I think you're muted.
Oh, how about that?
Oh.
Yeah, I think I profited by like $40, so it was a fine night, but nothing special.
Yeah, hey, any profit is better than the dreaded zero or the you won $6. All right, anyway, this is a 6-game slate. We're not going to try to take up too much of your time, but we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate our subscriber count climbing, so please like and subscribe to help us out. All right, moving on here. We have the Hawks and the Sixers. This is shaping up as the best game of the night if things break right. The Hawks are 3.5-point road favorites. This game has a sick 246 total. I will mention that every game on this slate has a welcoming total. So blowout risk aside, literally every game is pretty appealing. But starting with the Hawks here, who stands out for you?
Yeah, Murray's questionable. I feel like he'll play. I feel like he sat the other night because it was the trade deadline eve, and he was just kind of wanting to be put on ice in case they dealt him, but they did not. He's actually not a bad play at 7-6, but I think Trae Young for 9-3 is the one that stands out, obviously. He's Trae Young. Better matchup tonight than he had the other night against Boston. Kongwu looks fine for 6-2. Starting, of course, with Capella still out. Minutes are pretty healthy, mid-30s in both of these starts. Jalen Johnson's always kind of a fine mid-range guy, but not really a priority. He and Bogdanovich will look a little better if Murray's out, but honestly, it's kind of just a Kongwu and Trae Young at the top of the list.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. The only note would be if Murray is out, Bogdanovich looks obviously pretty good. Moving on to the Philly side of things, Tyrese Maxey got the midday questionable downgrade. He's sick, so that's cool. I feel like he's been sick for 3 games in a row, and he's been ass in his last 2 games. So even if he plays, that is worth mentioning. At 9.2K at home in this spot, though, if Maxey is healthy, I'm imagining we should have interest. I certainly do. And then you have Tobias Harris up top as well. But this is one of those teams that is still being impacted by all the trade moves. Last time I checked, I believe they only have 9 healthy bodies, and if Maxey is out, that would be 8. So how are you feeling about Philly tonight?
Yeah, this looks like the value team of the day. It's going to be hard to avoid multiple of them, barring like some kind of crazy midday news from somebody else. Yeah, they're pretty much out of power forwards behind Tobias. Like Marcus Morris is traded, Daniel House traded, Robert Covington out, Nick Batum out, all sorts of stuff. So KJ Martin looks good. He's been bad this season, but hasn't really gotten much of an opportunity. He kind of has to play by default in this game. So 4-1, that's a little more than I would have hoped KJ Martin would be, but still cheap enough relative to everyone else to where I think he's fine. Ricky Council looks good for 3-4. Terquavion Smith, especially if Maxey's out. I assume he's going to start and play most of the point guard minutes. Oubre and Harris should see the usage if Maxey's out. Paul Reed looks fine. I think his minutes were back up in the last game after his little illness bout. So I do think he's a pretty good value against a Kongwu and stuff. So it's going to be a good value team either way. If Maxi's out, they're going to be like the value team of the day, no doubt.
Yeah, I would imagine everybody here is playable. It's a lot like was it the Knicks who only had 8 guys last night?
Yep.
Yeah, so, and then that's almost where they're, but I mean, if you look at the Nets, they had 9 guys, and then it wasn't that inviting of a situation all of a sudden. In that kind of situation, you might want to steer towards the value guys. For Philly, though, it is Maxey and Harris as long as Maxey is in. I'm with you. Paul Reed's just fine. And if Maxey is out, I would be eating up that value as well. So for me, though, it's going to be about is Maxey in or not, and what is the lineup. I don't really want to go to these guys off the bench because you just have no idea if they're going to roll out 40 minutes for every starter or something crazy. So just trust the projections and make sure you're using, the lineup that they give you. All right, moving on. We got the Wizards and the Celtics, a horrendous 17-point spread. I will say the last time Boston was favored like this, they lost to the Grizzlies at home. So I believe it was the Grizzlies anyway. So yeah, they can fail in this spot. Jason, what's up?
It was the Lakers.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, without Brow and Braun. Okay, so the Wizards are coming in at less than full strength. They don't have a viable center after trading away Daniel Gafford, and Marvin Bagley's still on the shelf. They ruled out Patrick Baldwin. Rashawn Holmes isn't available yet. Isaiah Livers isn't available yet. So they're looking at Eugene. What's his name?
Omarui.
Omarui. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the fucking name. That's how unknown this guy is. I know he was an OKC body last year or so, but he's not very good. And he is 3.8K, and he might play a lot in this game. They could also dust off Anthony Gill here, or they could run Kuz at the 5. So considering the spread and considering the situation, how are you feeling about the Wiz?
Yeah, Omarui is going to be maybe the most popular player on the slate, which is a little alarming because he's Eugene Omarui, but he has been good per minute. I think he's played like over 140 minutes and been at like 1.46 DK points per minute. So that's elite. I wouldn't expect that to, translate longer term, but still cheap. Minutes have to be there by default. Even if he doesn't start, I think he's a good play. If he doesn't start, his ownership may also come down. Like if they start Gill, I could see people going that way. I have zero interest in Gill if he starts. He's just an old, shitty player that I don't want to deal with. Otherwise, that's really it. Like Kispert's minutes have been up. Kuzma looks okay if he gets minutes at the 5, but you don't really want to be playing 5 against Boston anyway. So, yeah, it's probably just Omarui for me on this team.
I am in 100% agreement. The only thing that would change my mind is if they came up with some really weird lineup where, I don't know, you're starting Koulibaly or Kispert or somebody. Not that I really want to play Kispert either, but they're just so undermanned that they just might not play a traditional rotation where they have a center out there at all times. So that could be problematic. Preferably Eugene starts and we don't have to worry about that. And at that point, I wouldn't really be concerned with the blowout. I'd just take whatever minutes he gives me at 3.8K and move along. I think he's good chalk, provided that's the case. On the other side, you have Boston. Jason Tatum is iffy for this game with an illness. He showed up to shoot around sick. Like, what the hell is he doing? Go rest somewhere and get better, and maybe don't, get all of your teammates sick, you ass. But anyways, so he could still play. I would imagine the smart move would for him to rest in a game where there's 17-point favorites. If he's in, I kind of think it's just like, it's a great matchup, but it's just everybody's healthy. If he's out, that is when Boston really gets interesting to me. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't really want this team. Like, it's a great matchup. They have a high total, but I don't know. They're kind of like load managing their guys right now. Like Drew Holiday the other night, his fake elbow injury. Tatum, I don't know if he's actually sick or if they're just bullshitting and abiding by the league rules and all that. Like you said, Tatum's fine. Porzingis against a team with no center looks good. I assume Horford would start if Tatum is out, but 6K for him and a likely blowout's not all that alluring. Derek White seems to get more usage with any of the other regulars sitting, but he's up to 7K. Holiday looks overpriced at 6.5. Jaylen Brown, I guess, would be like the obvious pivot to Tatum, but It's not like we're getting him at a real discount at 8-3 either. So I don't see a lot here that really stands out. I would like to avoid them completely, honestly.
Yeah, I think this is the very spot where I do want to play for the blowout. So with that in mind, I wouldn't really hate a shot at Peyton Pritchard at 4K off the bench. If it is going to be a blowout, if Tatum is out, if they're going to start load managing their guys a little bit more and checking their minutes, then Pritchard could end up being a pretty good value on the slate. But it is the Wizards they're facing at home, so it's absolutely a spot where you can play Boston guys. I think I'm just with you where I don't really want to prioritize them. Moving on here, Rockets and Raptors in Toronto. Toronto is a 1.5 point favorite with FVV missing out on true revenge. It's a 234.5 total, so it actually is a pretty good spot as far as stacking goes. Starting on the Houston side, who stands out for you?
Obviously, Amen Thompson. He's only 5'3". That's not expensive enough. Really good per minute producer without Van Vliet. Minutes should be there. Very easy play. Jabari Smith gets a big usage boost without Van Vliet. Ditto for Jalen Green. Jabari for 5'4" is just too cheap on DK. Happy to get to him. I think Green is good in tournaments if he's not going to be owned. We saw in the last game that he's going to be kind of the guy offensively. Şengün has a case to be the guy offensively too. I think he's totally fine. Very high floor play with him as always. The issue is Giannis and Jokic are on the slate, and I think both look really good. So Şengün might just kind of fall, down the totem pole by default. Not a bad play in a vacuum, but relative to the slate, I don't know if I'll be getting to him too much.
Yeah, well, I think, when you start talking about blowouts and stuff, I mean, the Bucks and Giannis in particular, that may not be a situation where we have to go that high. But when you start talking about multiple studs like that, I see where you're going. But yeah, 9K for Şengün. He had 53 fantasy points in the same matchup last time he faced Toronto. Everybody looks just fine. Like Şengün and Jalen Green are fine, and Amen Thompson for me is a core play, absolutely. And then I'd also look at Jabari and maybe even Dylan Brooks at 4.8K. I mean, these guys are all getting that bump in their minutes and usage, so they're absolutely in play. Moving over to the Toronto side, Scotty Barnes leads the way for the Raptors with a 42-point projection, but it's actually Emmanuel Quickley leading the team with a 23% boom rating at DFS Hero. So obviously facing the Rockets isn't really ideal given their defensive aptitude, but Fred VanVleet has a lot to do with that up front. So I don't think that matters. But yeah, so for Toronto, who do you like?
Yeah, Quickley, Barrett, Scotty Barnes all stand out. Even Pearl at center, I think, is fine. 6'2". I'm kind of surprised Toronto's favored in this game. I don't really understand that. Like, I know Van Vliet's out, but the Raptors have been really terrible. So I'm not sure what's up with this, but
just no at home.
I guess. So they should see full minutes. I think they're all fine individual plays. I guess Gary Trent kind of has an unknown value you can consider. He's been starting. He's happy to hoist, that kind of thing. But none of them look like priorities. I do like Barnes as kind of a lower-owned mid-range spend. He and Miles Bridges look really good to me on the slate. So I don't mind that. But this team as a whole doesn't look like a big priority on the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I don't really like Toronto at all. Just last night when they faced it was last night when they faced the Hornets, right? Or whatever game. Last game they faced the Hornets, I played Quickly, and it was RJ Barrett who smashed, and everybody else sucked. So when they're at full strength, it's just like one guy will do well, but good luck picking who it is. Scotty Barnes in a vacuum is a good play, but he really has not been that dude since Barrett and Quickley arrived here. They have too many guards, too many guys who jack up shots and are playmaking. I just don't like it. It's kind of yucky for me. Gary Trent does stand out as a value at 4.6, but across the board here, I'm not looking to put Raptors into my lineups. All right, moving on, we got the Hornets and the Bucks. If this game stays close, easily could be the game of the night. It does have an ugly 14-point spread. Milwaukee's favorite at home. Giannis is probable. Pretty much everybody's probable. Campaign got traded for Pat Bev, who I don't think is going to be active for this game. Dame is questionable again after sitting out last night. Chris Middleton remains out. So everybody else should be here. Jay Crowder and AJ Green smashed as values yesterday. Pat Connaughton was fine. So yeah, they're on a back-to-back here, heavily favored. How are you feeling? Or I'm sorry, we should start with the Hornets side. My bad. Let's see real quick what's going on with the Hornets. LaMelo remains out. Mark Williams is out for like the next month. They won't have poor Grant Williams. He got traded to the Hornets.
No one likes Grant Williams, so
They
sucks for
won't.
him.
He and Kyle Lowry can commiserate, I suppose. And Seth Curry, dear Lord, these poor guys.
Do you see the Mavs couldn't wait to trade Grant Williams? Like they all hate him. So sucks for the Hornets to have Grant Williams now.
So they are not. They don't have any of their new guys here yet. So they're a little bit undermanned. And Cody Martin is probable. So other than that, they should be at full strength. How are you feeling about Charlotte here as 14-point road dogs?
Pretty good, actually. Ish Smith is gone, so Cody Martin should have a path to 30+, assuming he starts at point. Nick Smith, I assume will get more run, but, I'd really only have interest there if he does start. He's now small forward only on DK, which is kind of limiting. Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges look really good. Bridges just playing 40 minutes a night. Brandon Miller, pretty close. Both lead the team in usage, essentially, with all these injured and traded guys gone. So I have a lot of interest in both individually. I wouldn't play them together in the same lineup. Nick Richards, again, I always seem to bring him up. Sub 6K, starting center, looks pretty good. Decent per minute producer. So even with a big spread and their underdogs, I still think the Hornets look pretty good.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I will think it's top heavy for me. It's Miles Bridges by many miles. No pun intended. And then Brandon Miller ranks second for them. He's fine. His price is coming up. I prefer Miles if I'm going to be paying up, though. His projection's approaching 50, and he has a 28% boom rating. He's just far and away the best play. Miller's fine. Richards is fine at 5.9. And Cody Martin actually looks pretty good at 5.2. I would not mess with any of the value for the Hornets. It's all kind of fool's gold. Nick Smith, in theory, would be okay at 3.9. But, these guys like Nick Smith, Leaky Black, Bryce McGowan's, you just can't trust these guys. Even when they play, they do nothing out there. The usage is 100% being divided between Miles, Miller, and Cody right now. So those are the guys I would prioritize with a heavy lean on Bridges. Looking over at the Bucks, we don't know yet what's going to happen with Dame. Obviously, if he's in at 8.9, he looks really, really good. And Giannis is coming in with a 33% boom rating. He failed miserably as a chalky stud yesterday, but that should not deter us at all from going right back to him in a really, really good spot. So how are you feeling about the Bucks here?
Yeah, it's like the best bounce back spot you can find for Giannis. Charlotte doesn't protect the paint. They don't rebound. They don't defend. So smash spot for him. I'm happy to play all of him. If people are scared after last night, then that's pretty silly, especially if Dame is out. Even if Dame's in, I'm happy to play Giannis. Dame himself at 8.9 looks fine, assuming he's not on a strict limit. He hasn't been out long, so I don't feel like he would be, limited to 30 minutes, barring a blowout or whatever. So 8.9 for him looks fine. The slate doesn't have a ton to pay up for at guard, besides like Trae Young, for example. So I do think Dame looks like one of the better options by default. Jay Crowder, perhaps. I'm not dying to do that. Yeah, AJ Green feels a little chasey, kind of crushed in garbage time yesterday. So don't want to do that again. It's really just Giannis and Dame and maybe a sprinkling of Crowder.
Yep, 100% agree. I don't really have anything else to add to that. Very, very chasey on both Crowder and AJ Green, but I'd feel a lot better about Crowder unless Dame's out and AJ Green starts. Then I think you can try that if you want. All right, moving on here. We got the Nuggets and Kings with a nice tight spread, 2.5 point spread. Kings are favored at home, 232 total. You obviously have some monstrous studs here with Sabonis facing off with Jokic. So pretty inviting game, to be honest. And right now, let's just check the other side as well. I know the Denver side is not. Yeah, this game is not garnering much ownership, in particular with the studs, because everybody's looking at Giannis in that smash spot. So starting with Jokic at the top, how are you feeling about Denver?
I think Jokic and Murray are good values in their price ranges. Murray at 8.4 looks a little light. Sacramento is a good matchup for the Nuggets. They are underdogs, second half of a back-to-back for Denver, so I guess there's a chance we could see some shenanigans. KCP is questionable. Did he play last night? Do you know?
I do not. Let me check.
He did not. So who started? Let's figure this out. This is on the late slate.
Well, Peyton Watson played 25 minutes. I don't know if he started. I don't have it in
And
front.
Holiday started.
Who?
Justin Holiday.
Oh, classic. He played 22 minutes and got 4 fantasy points and fouled out. Okay, so I mean, at the minimum, 3K. If KCP is out and Justin Holiday starts again, I'm assuming he would have played more if he didn't freaking foul out. So Justin Holiday
doesn't do anything. So no.
But a 3K flat, he's fine. It's like I love him, but that's really cheap for a starter.
I think I'd rather go to Jackson or Watson at a little more. Like they're both right around 4K. Both saw mid-20s minutes off the bench. I'd feel a little bit better about that. KCP wouldn't really open up much usage for the other starters either. So it's not a huge deal, but it is something to consider.
Yep. I think for the most part, it's just Jokic for me. I'm not that interested in the value here. Not that it's not logical or you can't consider it. It's more just there's better value earlier in the slate. I'd mostly be looking at the Sixers for my value right now. But Jokic is quite the pivot off of what looks to be a chalky Giannis. It's not like Sabonis is some stalwart defender. Let me check real quick. How did he do in the last game against Sabonis? Yeah, 84 fantasy points. So, he did okay. So, I mean, if everybody's going to be playing Giannis in what very likely is a blowout, I will play Jokic at 11% or lower ownership. He does have a 31% boom rating, and he's, Nikola Jokic. So he looks really good. Over on the King side, you do have Sabonis, who isn't quite as inviting as Jokic, but he's also a lot cheaper. So how are you feeling about Sabonis and the rest of the Kings tonight?
He's not really on my radar. I think there's other stuff to pay up for, especially at center, like Şengün and Jokic and Giannis, for example. Herter and Monk look fine in the mid-range again. They're both in the 5K range. We've seen Monk in particular with a big ceiling lately. Minutes have kind of gone back up for him, so he looks solid. Keegan Murray for 5.3 is really cheap for Keegan Murray. He was like mid-6s a few weeks ago. Not been playing well, but the minutes are still pretty secure, and he's not going to garner any ownership. I think Murray as a kind of lower owned value looks really, really good.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. I also am with you on Herter and Monk, totally fine. Even Harry Barnes doesn't do a lot, but he gets a lot of minutes. He's only 4.6K. And let's see, how has Trey Lyles been in this little punty role here? He's still only 3.68. He had 20 minutes, 23 minutes last game. If he's going to get close to 20 minutes, you can do a lot worse at 3.6K than Trey Lyles. However, the guy that really stands out for me is an increasingly cheaper De'Aaron Fox, who projects pretty decently, is only 8.2K, and went absolutely nuts the last time he faced the Nuggets, 65.5 fantasy points. Not very predictive, I don't think, because 16 assists were helped that quite a bit. So I don't think that is – you can't just be like, oh, he's going to get 65 fantasy points again. But obviously he smashed in the spot. And I like him a lot better than Sabonis because, he doesn't have to go up against Jokic every single play down the floor. So that's where I stand there. On to the last game of the night we go. This one has some injury news we need to consider for sure. The Pelicans at the Lakers. The Pelicans are 2.5-point favorites. This game has a 233.5 total. For the first time in forever, I feel like we don't have LeBron or Brow on the injury report. So that's cool. They did play last night, so keep that in mind.
They haven't released it yet for one thing, so
okay,
it'll
that's
probably be questionable.
Well, I mean, it is the second leg of a back-to-back set, so it is going to be a little bit dicey to roll with these guys at your studs. Anyways, for the Pelicans side, Zion is questionable, JV is questionable, and Najee Marshall is questionable. So actually, any of those guys being out could be pretty big. How do you think those injuries could impact the Pels, and who do you like tonight?
I think the main three look good no matter what. Like CJ at 6.7 and Zion for 7.1, just underpriced. Matchup's good. Lakers on a back-to-back, not a very good team anyway. We're just kind of underpaying for them. Ingram, I don't think he's going to garner a ton of ownership unless we get like Zion early news or something like that. I think he's pretty good at 7.7. Valanciunas looks better if Zion's out. Larry Nance becomes the value play if Valanciunas sits. Perhaps Trey Murphy, Herb Jones get boosts if Zion's out. A lot of moving parts here, and it doesn't help that it's the last night.
Yeah, you would be wrong about that ownership so far anyways. Right now, if I'm looking at the DFS Hero Optimizer, they have very split ownership, but all these guys, McCollum, Zion, and Ingram all carry 18+% ownership. Zion and Ingram specifically at 22%. And by the way, they all look really good in the system with 22 or better boom ratings. So, and by the way, this DFS Hero Optimizer, you can try it out yourself with a 15% discount, hitting the link below this video. A lot of cool features in here you can check out, and hopefully it can help you, win big tonight. So, but yeah, I'm with you across the board here. It really depends on what happens with Zion and JV. Obviously, JV looks great at 6'3". If Zion is out, Zion at 7'1". Boy, that's a tough fade if we actually know he's in. But yeah, everybody looks good here. It just depends on who's actually in. All right, here we go. We're ending the slate with the Lakers. Like Taylor said, we don't actually know yet who's questionable or not. We do know D'Lo was a scratch at the last second last night, so he obviously could not. He might not play, but we'll have to keep an eye out for the injury report here. Either way, how are you feeling about the Lakers?
They look fine. It's not a good matchup, though, and the back-to-back's a little concerning, but you can say the same thing about AD every night. He's like 10K and underpriced for his role. Reeves will look better if Russell's out. Hachimura played 37 minutes last night and got 8 fantasy points, so that was pretty impressive. He's 4'9", and I guess has a safe path to minutes, so I suppose you can go back there and hope he scores more than 2 points. Yeah, Torian Prince came off the bench. Max Christie started with Russell out, not playing Max Christie. I don't think Max Christie's playing tonight either. So, yeah, kind of another wait-and-see situation. Boy,
that's too funny. 38 minutes, 8.5 fantasy points. Yeah, you know what, though? Minutes are the lifeblood here. If we knew going in he'd get 38 freaking minutes, I'd play him every time. I don't really care. That's just recency bias in a bottle right there. Obviously 8.5, you never want to see that, but 38 minutes is hard to pass up. So I'm going to be looking at him for sure. I'm with you. Reeves, if D'Lo is out, if D'Lo's in, don't really like him or D'Lo that much. And then just monitor the injury report so we know which Lakers stud is actually playing or not. But Brow at 51 projected, points here, no ownership, 22% boom rating. He looks pretty inviting. If you want to just say, screw it, let's fade the top 2 price studs on this slate and let Brow be my stud, that's not that bad of a strategy. He's, well over 1K cheaper than Giannis or Jokic. Obviously, if the Bucks game blows out, that is sound logic. And then Jokic, you just need him to not get like 85 again against the Kings. Tall order, actually, but, it's certainly possible. All right, let's close this slate up with a look at the chalkiest plays of the slate. Amen Thompson leads the way with a disgusting 51% projected ownership rate. But you know what? We're in agreement. We're just going to eat that chalk and roll right along. But is there anybody else that you see up top here that you may be fading with confidence on the slate?
I think Herter is a pretty fadeable play at 19%. If Malik Monk is, I think, 600 more, I'll just pivot that to Monk, assuming he's going to be a little contrarian compared to Herter. KJ Martin's also a bit fragile, though I do like him overall.
Yeah, I think mine's going to be quickly. I mean, he's 6.8. I don't think you really need to live in the mid-range tonight. I think my personal strategy is going to be paying up and then eating a lot of this chalk value for the most part. And Thompson, Eugene, Amarui, some of the Sixers guys. So I don't really see a clear path to 23% own Emmanuel quickly. So that'd be the guy I would highlight as somebody that I would be avoiding. As far as the punts go, KJ Martin might be the first guy I do try to get off of if he's going to be a lot chalkier than this projected 18%, just because he's not a very strong per minute guy so far on the year. And if they're going to have not that many guys, you could easily just bank on a different dude on Philly taking his minutes away from him or just, outproducing them. All right, real quick, we're going to head over to the boom rating up top. Again, Amen Thompson. So I think we're just in agreement. Fire up 100% Amen Thompson. You also have Giannis here second, and then Jokic. That should shock absolutely nobody. As far as the guys who are projecting with high boom ratings, who are you most likely, besides Amen Thompson, to build your lineups around?
Definitely Giannis. And I think Miles Bridges, his ownership compared to that boom rating is pretty intriguing.
Yeah, Miles Bridges. Yeah, and same thing with Jokic. If it keeps trending towards Giannis being like monster chalk and Jokic just hanging around 10% ownership, I'm really going to start looking at Jokic and Brow builds as opposed to Giannis. I'm not going to completely fade Giannis. It's definitely one of the classic don't get too cute spots. It's just too good of a spot to completely fade him. But I think I am going to be underweight if that ownership keeps ticking up. All right, that is going to do it for us. Please, like I've said before, if we help you in any way with this video, give us a like so we know what we're doing is helping you out. And also please subscribe to our channel, the DFS Build, so you can get alerts for future videos. And also try out the DFS Hero lineup optimizer. The link for 15% off is right below in our video description. Thanks for watching and good luck.